Super Castlevania IV. The superest of Castlevanias.
It's in the title, it has to be true.
It's not just Castlevania 4, it's Super Castlevania 4, motherfucker. And this game is amazing. This game is oozing with atmosphere. That is like the main thing I always take from this game. Whenever I think about it, I think about the visual design and the sound, like the actual sound font and music and that whole package, and just how much that game actually provokes the tone, that it's a real tone of horror and suspense in itself. That, like, there is a reason why when I started this channel, my very first video, the music I play is the opening music from Castlevania IV. It's because it sounds fucking awesome. It's really atmospheric and it sets the tone. When I said the words, when I say Castlevania, I am thinking of that song. So maybe I should have said that in my video, not Symphony of the Night. I had a completely different YouTube channel altogether. In terms of the controls, Simon controls better in this game than he ever has before. He controls like a dream. He controls so well he can moonwalk. He is awesome to play as in this game.
Would you call him a smooth criminal?
He is a smooth criminal who is going to kick Dracula's ass with his 8-way whip.
What a thriller.
Simon has an 8-way whip in this game, which is insanely overpowered. He also is able to just hold the attack button down, which then lets you manually spin the whip around, which is fun.
Would that help you with the Medusa head problem?
I think the Medusa heads are multi-hitting, so maybe not. While other YouTubers, such as Aaron Hansen, have brought to light that the whip has massive issues with the balance of the game, effectively making many of the sub-weapons practically worthless, I would still say that there are a number of them that are still valuable, such as the cross, the holy water, or the clock. As with the clock, if you're being overwhelmed, you can just stop time. Like, the whip can't stop time. You know, that's useful. Or how the cross, because it and the holy water, the way their trajectories work and how they linger for a moment, or in the cross's case it will come back, that's really useful if you want to multi-hit a boss. And I think that's the best way to think of the sub-weapons in this game. They're items that you use to prepare yourself for the boss fight at the end of the stage, as opposed to something you use throughout the entire stage to try to deal with the small fry, as your whip is going to solve most of those problems.
Would you say this makes the game more forgiving?
I would say that this does make the game far more forgiving. If that's a bad point for people when it comes to this franchise, I wouldn't say so. I think the challenge here is comfortable. You will still die if you play this game like an imbecile. There's still tight jumps you have to make. There's still stage hazards that are super creative. There's the one room everyone remembers is hanging across the wall as the room spins around. Like, there's a lot of things that the game tries to do with the hardware to make itself both impressive to look at, but also exciting to play. And that, I think that largely has to do with the actual developer of this game, Masahiro Ueno. His credentials beforehand was that he was the man who ported Metal Gear to the Famicom Disk System in just 3 months, making all the differences at Konami's request. So the version of Metal Gear that everyone played on the NES is partly thanks to this man. His development team worked on 4 during Castlevania III's development. It was a completely new team that was brought in specifically to get to grips with the new hardware. Castlevania 1 was his personal favourite, so he effectively wanted to make an action game that was similar to Castlevania 1 without the RPG elements. To an extent, a lot of people can look at this game and say it's effectively a reboot of Castlevania 1, and I have to agree with them. There's enough things there to make it feel like it is basically a reimagined Castlevania 1, although it doesn't make Castlevania 1 irrelevant because of how different it is to actually play, and a lot of the level structures are very different.
You say that was maybe because they didn't even have a dev kit, right, when they were making this game? They were just sort of playing it by ear.
No, they had no dev kit given to them when they were prepping for the Super Nintendo. This team was effectively thrown in the deep end with new hardware and no help whatsoever, and basically just left to their own devices for a couple of years. And they managed to persevere and make this masterpiece with a bunch of new mechanics that made the game feel refreshing and exciting to play again.
Like the next step up.
Yeah, this was, and maybe that's why this game is called Super Castlevania, because this really is a super version of Castlevania.
It seems like a lot of people think it's like the best classic 2D game. Would you agree with that?
I would say it's one of the best ClassicVanias, but the one that I'm covering next is better. Ooh, cliffhanger.